What we have here is a beautiful Embuya burl from West Penn Hardwoods in Conover, North Carolina. There is a link in the description, and you can go check them out. I'm pretty sure this is an Embuya burl. This side I sanded to 1000 grit, and I'm going to show you how these two wonderful finishes, built on the same platform, can give you a really, really nice depth in this piece. And I'm going to pick the butcher block oil or the super pen, which are very similar to each other because of the clarity that they offer. And what I want out of this piece is I want to bring out this depth and chatoyance without darkening the highlights in here in the sapwood. So I want to keep this really contrasty and beautiful. So this is why I'm choosing these two finishes, one of these two finishes, for my base coat. And we're just going to use the butcher block since it's in a smaller container, and they're very similar. And then my top coat over this will be Odie's oil, and then probably finally the butter, if I need it. But we'll look at it, and we're going to see. We're going to take one side up to a really, really high sheen, like a high gloss, and the other side's going to be more of a 220 grit sanding and a lower sheen. So first thing you want to do with the butcher block oil or the super pen is shake it up. Make sure that it's fully emulsified, that there's nothing laying on the bottom of the jar. Got it nice and mixed. One thing about both of these oils, they smell fantastic. They both have a different scent from each other, but they do smell wonderful. So use a white pad for surfaces you've sanded above 600 grit. I would like to use a white pad. On things like 600 or 800 grit, I'll go to a white. A white is rated at 0. So a little bit goes a long way. I'm going to work it into the surface. Here she goes. It's already looking beautiful. Just that small amount of butcher block oil that I put on this white pad was enough to do this whole burl, this whole side of this burl. And I've covered the whole piece already with that little tiny dip of oil. And I still have plenty of oil on the pad, and there's still excess oil on the piece. I'm going to continue to work it in, but look how pretty that is. And as this starts to go in deeper, it's going to get more three-dimensional. It's going to just get prettier and prettier and prettier. So, and the longer you work it in, the deeper your penetration is going to be into this piece. I just love beautiful burls like this. They're just amazing. Really special pieces. And our friends over at West Penn has them in all, they have them in all different sizes and many different species. They probably have one of the best selections in the United States of exotic hardwoods. There are many sources for woods around the country, but over there they do an exceptional job, and they have an amazing, amazing selection. As I'm working this in, I'm watching it transform right before my eyes to a darker, richer color. Really pretty. I've never finished one of these species burls before, and I didn't really know what to expect. And I'm really quite surprised it's got this really pleasant kind of almond color. It's really pretty. Now, those of you that are watching are going to ask me, how do you finish the rough edges on this? And this is pretty spiny and cool looking, and very simple. You can blot it on with the pad. You can blot it on with like a microfiber sponge, or you could even use a brush. But you still need to make sure you get all the excess oil off. So you're going to blot it with a cotton towel and get it off. Make sure you don't leave any excess on. But really pretty. I'm going to do the other side now. And I'm going to see if I can get away without putting any more oil on my pad. And this is how you use this finish. You're not supposed to slather it on. A lot of people make the mistake of slathering. Oh, it's super penetrating oil. I'm going to slather it on so it super penetrates deep into the wood. It's not really what it's about. It does go deep into the wood, but with like all Odie's products, a little goes a long way. And our finishes have zero, pretty much zero solvents in them. Everything, 98 to 99.5% of the finish that you apply to the wood stays in the wood. Unlike other brand finishes where there are 70, 80, 90% solvents. This stuff is really about 99% of the good stuff, the stuff that stays in the wood. So there's nothing to evaporate. So you're going to use very little. You can't even tell I opened this jar. If you look in the jar, if I tilt it too much, it's going to dump out. That's how little. And I never reset my pad. I never put more oil on my pad to do the second side. Now, it's a very small Burl, but look how far this goes. No other finish will give you the coverage that Odie's will give you. And that's because Odie's is, like I said, 100% the good stuff. It's potent as can be. Other finishes wish they had just the basic components that Odie's has. And the basic components of that Odie's has is 100% of the finish. It's just amazing. So what I've done here is taken the best of the best that nature can offer and made the best finish in the world, which I know is the best finish in the world. This side is very pretty too. 220 grit looks really nice. And I'm going to be hard pressed to figure out which side I'm going to like better. Now, I'm going to let this set up a little while, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop it on the towel. I'm not that worried about it right now. I'm going to work a little bit more on this side because this is the side I have the most hope for. It's the prettiest, it's the biggest, the largest side, and I really think it's going to be nice. And I'm not sure what I'm going to turn this piece into. I might turn it into a clock. I might just hang it on the wall or just kind of use it as a little tray or something, but really interesting. And in future videos, I'll have some much bigger burls like this. So stay tuned for my next part of this video, and I'll be buffing off the finish. So while I'm waiting for the oil to set up on this piece on the front and back, I'm going to go ahead and just start working with this rough live edge, which is quite sharp. I want to leave it the way it is. You know, some people might want to sand it a little bit. I kind of want to leave it the way it is. But I'm going to start with my white pad. Catalina's going to go get me a brush. And I have not added any more oil at all to this pad since I've done the top, front, and the back. And what I'm going to do is to start working it in and to see how far I can go before I get annoyed using the white pad to work in this rough edge. Now, there's another way to do this with a brush, but I just want to show you how much oil, this little bit of oil goes so far. It is crazy. And this shows exactly why Odie's is so special. We are a highly, highly concentrated oil of just the good stuff. High concentration, the highest possible concentration of oils and waxes that is actually functional for application. And it's working. This, I don't even have to really. Now it could be quicker. I could do this really fast with the brush, but why be in a big rush? I got time. I got to wait. I want to wait for this oil to penetrate into both sides. So I might as well let this time pass by while I am working it into this live edge. Tiny little bit of oil still in there. A little bit on my fingers came out of the pad. And if you notice, I'm actually finishing on a table that I just finished a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not freaking out about it because I'm not going to damage this table. This is going to be my dining table in my house. The old table that I grew up at. We finished it. It's got sentimental value to me, so I refinished it and put our white stain and our black stain on the base. Stain on the top and the black stain on the base. So I'm already on the other side, and I'm still not adding more oil. Now I could probably finish this whole piece like this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the brush application, just so you get to see it. Now, I'm just going to dab, let's make sure my oil's still stirred. And it's a good idea if you're going to have the jar open for a little while and you're finishing, just go back and make sure your oil's stirred, that, especially this SPO or the butcher block oil, because they're thinner oils. You want to make sure your contents did not separate at all. Tiny little bit, tiny little bit. I'm just going to brush it in. And believe it or not, the pad is even more controllable than the brush. With the pad, I didn't have to worry about using too much. One of the biggest problems that people have when they use Odie's finishes is they use too much. They're so used to using conventional finishes that require, you know, boy, some of them up to 20 times more oil or finish than us. And I've had many people call up where they've used a whole jar on a little piece like this, or a half a jar on a little piece like this. You can't even tell I opened this jar. And when you use too much oil, you make your job much more difficult, and it's harder to buff it all off. And the other issue is, if there's oil remaining on the surface or bleeding back on the surface, it has nothing to cross-link to but air and oxygen. Therefore, you get a sporadic, dull, dry-looking finish. After a few weeks, it'll get dull and dry-looking as that oil polymerizes and cures. And that's not what you want. That's when you hear people go and say, oh, it turned powdery. Well, that means they used too much product and they didn't get it all off the surface. Oh, but I buffed it for days. Well, the problem wasn't the buffing for days. Actually, that was part of your problem because you need to get it all off the same day. But the other part is, once you over apply, good luck getting it all off. It keeps bleeding back and you think you got it off and you didn't. That's the big problem. And then also the same mindset that uses a lot of oil, because they're so used to using conventional finishes like polyurethane or pseudo hard wax oils or pseudo oils that are really polys in disguise. You wind up using so much oil that they don't even understand the concept that you have to buff the finish off. I just had a gentleman tell me the other day, I buffed it off. If I buffed it off anymore, I'd get holidays. Well, holidays is a term you use when you're using film forming finishes. This is not a film forming finish. You don't want to leave a film on the surface. You want to buff it all off. You want to not have any finish remaining on the surface. Only what's in the wood is what should remain. What's in the wood will cross-link on a molecular level, bond there, polymerize there. A chemical reaction happens. It happens within the wood, and the molecules cross-link. You form a new molecule. There's no way for the finish to wash off. If your finish is washing off, that means you have too much finish on the surface. And then when that happens, it looks hideous because you didn't get even cross-linking and polymerization. You didn't get an even nice finish that penetrated into the wood and was evenly distributed across the upper cellulose fiber. You have blotches now of finish sitting on the surface on top of old finish. It's really similar to using too much paint. If you put too much paint on a wall in one coat, it really doesn't want to cure very well. You get an ugly, wrinkly, rough finish. Or if you put a coat of wet paint on top of a coat of wet paint, you get the same result. So very similar in that aspect. But even worse when it comes to Odie's, because this is a really concentrated finish. You need to use very little and be sure to always buff it off. So I did this whole piece. I didn't use any oil. we can have a B-roll shot if you want of what that looks like, of this jar. There's nothing left. I mean, I used nothing. There's a whole jar left. I used basically nothing. You can't even tell I opened this jar. Now, once again, it's a small piece. If you're a wood turner or a guy that makes small pieces like this, that jar is going to last you years or all year. And if that's the case, you want to use our oxygen, Bloxygen finish preserver, which will keep your finish fresh for many years to come. Anyway, it's looking really nice, and I'm going to do the buff off now. It's a little premature, but for video purposes, we're going to go ahead and start. Now, I'm going to take the finish off the first surface, the 1000 grit. Really pretty. And Catalina, you want to grab me a microfiber towel? Or Bruce, actually, sorry. I think I want to use the microfiber because the cotton seems to grab this. And this is sanded so well that, look at that. Pretty, huh? Is that showing the sheen, depth? Very nice. Over here, it looks very nice. Now, this sheen is just going to get better with age. Yeah, one of those. Thank you. Look at that. So I'm going to wipe it down a little bit more. And then I'm going to do the 220 grit side. So that's the 1000 grit side. And then this is the 220 grit, which I'm going to buff off, the smaller side. And what I'm going to do is even step the sheen up even higher on the 1000 grit side. And I may do it on the 220 grit side just to show different ways to get a high sheen. There's more than one way to get a high sheen with Odie's. And this side even looks nice. Let's look at that sheen. Different sheen now, see? Nowhere near as glossy as that. Can you see it in the camera? 220. 1000. Now this is still wet. And believe it or not, it's going to get shinier as it cures. In the coming weeks, it's just going to get better and better and better. And the color is going to get deeper. Really pretty. But the clarity is going to remain. It's not going to amber. This is not an ambering finish. This is a clear finish. Now, what I like to do, well, let's show how I'm going to buff off the rough edges. And I'm using a cotton towel. Now, you want to find the direction of the grain. If I went in the wrong direction, I might pull the nap out of the towel. I seem to have found the right direction. And I'm not having that much difficulty. And, you know, I get a lot of questions about this. Well, my stuff is really intricate and carved, and this is really sharp. I mean, I can cut my fingers on this. And this is pretty rough. The fact that I use so little oil, the right amount actually, makes it very easy for me to buff this off. Well, how do you do it with the regular Odie's oil? It's the same thing. They're the same thing. Just as easy. You can't do this, and you shouldn't be using power tools or sharp objects. So. Now, my videos have a tendency to be a little long, and social media doesn't like that because it's all about instant gratification. But I do want to make the most explanatory, informational videos I possibly can for my customers and viewers. So I'm going to complete the process on camera in this video. I'm not going to chop it up into 15 videos. So if you're patient enough to watch me, you may learn some tricks here. Just looking fantastic. Even the live edge on this is pretty. Got a nice sheen, actually. And I didn't even touch it. I left it the way it came to me. Live edge. Now, a little trick. For those of you that have a hard time getting it all off the surface, your final buff off is always nice to do with a microfiber towel because it really gets into the micro pores of the wood. It's a much smaller nap. So it gets into those little crevices and little tiny pores where there might be some oil hiding out that is not cross-linked or bonding with the cellulose fiber. So you get all that excess off. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but man, I'm already starting to see the chatoyance in this piece come out. Very pretty. Backside of this, the 220 grit, same thing. I'm going to buff it off. Much lower sheen. For those of you that don't want a high sheen, that's what we're going to show. And both sides are just really beautiful. And I'll do the same thing for the live edge with the microfiber. Now this live edge, this is the final coat. I'm not going to put another coat on the live edge. On the face and the back, we're going to go ahead and put a coat of Odie's Oil on tomorrow or the next day. And stay tuned for that video, and I'll show you the different ways we can transform this piece into something even more beautiful than it is right now. And we can step up this absolutely gorgeous sheen on this side to something even more with just another coat of Odie's Oil and or our 1, 2, 3 polishing step program. So here you are. This is how I would finish a burl where I wanted ultimate clarity and bring out all that natural contrast without ambering the sapwood. This is how I would finish a very rough edge. And this is how I would buff off a very rough edge. Common questions we get often. People telling me it's impossible. It's very possible. I just did it on camera here for you guys to see. Really pretty. Well, thanks for joining, and stay tuned for the next chapter on this beautiful Burl from West Penn Hardwoods.